All right, welcome back. In this video, we are going to be talking about how hormone balance actually works and then tips to start balancing your hormones. So I made this funnel for you because it shows you how hormone balance in your body actually works. I'm going to take you through it. So hormone synthesis is when a hormone is made, and this requires minerals and it requires cholesterol. Then your hormone is transported because it needs to be available for your body to use. Too much stress or too much body fat can influence this because your hormone receptors have to then be sensitive enough for your body to use it. So too much cortisol can influence this. And just a note here, a lot of people will say, oh, I just need to take more estrogen, or I just need to add on a bunch of progesterone. And that's not necessarily true. It can help in some cases, but what it can actually do is lead to your body producing more receptors and then not being sensitive enough to actually use the hormone. And so it will create a lot of issues downstream. And progesterone, for example, if you add that in too quickly and your body's not detoxing and excreting hormones, it can really send a woman through the roof with her symptoms. It can worsen anxiety. It can lead to a lot of other issues as well. So just keep that in mind. Then your hormones fall off after your body uses them. They don't just stay around forever. So your body then has to detox them, and this requires healthy liver and gut function. Estrogen, for example, relies on the health of your liver and your gut to actually be detoxed. Otherwise, it gets recirculated into your system, and then that's another reason that estrogen dominance can happen. And then finally, at the bottom here, your hormones need to be excreted. So your body ideally wraps up the used hormone, like estrogen as our example, and it sends it through your poo. And then the process starts over. Any problem in this funnel can lead to symptoms. And where you start addressing your symptoms and addressing your cycle is very, very bio-individual. And I know it is so common to follow your favorite influencer or take advice from family members, but please remember that where you start on this funnel is so much different than your influencer who is pushing her favorite supplements that healed her IBS or her period problems. Where she started is likely very different than where you need to start. And so that is so important to keep in mind as you are working on your own hormone balance journey. You are a fearfully and wonderfully designed female, and you are so bio-individual. There's only one of you. And so what works for someone else might not necessarily work for you, and that's okay. You just have to find what does work for you. So let's look at what disrupts this process, and let's use estrogen as an example here. When it comes to balancing estrogen, your liver health is so vital. And the reason for that is because if you look in this picture of the liver, your liver takes estrogen and it takes it through 3 different phases before it leaves your body. Phase 1 and phase 2 happens in the liver, and then phase 3 happens in the gut. And in order to effectively complete phase 1 and phase 2, your liver needs nutrients. And so a lot of women, especially if we use an example of being on birth control, get depleted of vitamin B6. And vitamin B6, if you look on our chart, is so essential for your liver to actually detox estrogen. Another thing that can happen is a woman can become exposed to too many hormone mimicking substances. And those are often found in conventional skincare, period care, and cleaning products. And we'll be talking about that more in the How to Address Your Toxic Load video. But combined with that, your liver has to then deal with all of those substances on top of managing your estrogen. And then when you are living in a chronic state of stress, you're also producing excess adrenaline, which produces excess glucose, and your liver has to deal with all of that. And so when you don't take care of your liver or your gut, this can disrupt this entire process, and it can lead you to having hormone imbalances. So let's take a closer look at what happens in your liver. Estrogen is sent to your liver, and it goes through phase 1 and phase 2. And then once it's successful, it goes down to phase 3, and that is where it gets wrapped up in your stool and excreted from your body. We want this process to be healthy, but there are a lot of things that disrupt this process. So just using myself as an example here, I was placed on birth control. It depleted my vitamin B6. I was also living in a high chronic state of stress, and I was not eating enough nutrients. So I was already bombarding my liver with the way I was living and then with what I was taking. And then on top of that, I was using toxic skincare products, which can also interfere with this process. I also had severe constipation growing up and IBS. I was put on medication for IBS. I was told to avoid gluten. Nothing was helping. I had chronic stomach pain. I even had tests done to show that I was so full of poo. My dad was like, I always knew you were full of it. Like, it was bad. I was so constipated all the time. And eventually I was like, I can't take this anymore. So I got something called a GI map done. And it turned out that I not only had parasites, but I also had a very high level of a bacteria called beta glucuronidase. And what that can do is once estrogen goes through phase 1 and phase 2 through your liver to be detoxified, it's sent to your gut. And beta glucuronidase, if it's too high, it will unpackage what your liver has done and it will cause your estrogen to recirculate. So you end up stuck in a estrogen dominant state. And that is what happened to me for years. But I can tell you, I started learning more about this. I started nourishing my liver. I detoxed and healed my gut. I started really increasing my minerals and actually drinking enough minerals and water. I addressed my digestion. And then I learned how to regulate my nervous system. And I have very minimal crampings during my period. I no longer have IBS. I'm not on medication for it. I go to the bathroom every day, twice a day, and it's actually satisfying. So I'm no longer constipated. And this is why I am so passionate about teaching on this, because I have helped other women do the same. We have reversed symptoms, and I know that you can do it too. I know that it is so much information, but I want you to have it because it's truly life-changing. 4 questions to ask yourself on your hormone balancing journey. In light of what I just told you, in light of this funnel and how your hormone balance actually works, things you can do is ask yourself questions. Am I constipated? Are you going to the bathroom every day, twice a day, and is it satisfying? If it's not, if you have hemorrhoids, if it's like hard to go, if you don't go at all, you're constipated, and so your body is having a hard time even eliminating your hormones, and they're getting recirculated. And then on top of that, it can keep you in a toxic state. And remember, body fat holds on to toxins. And so that could be another reason if you're struggling with weight loss. That can be a reason. So start with that question and then start to address it. And we will talk about how to address these things in the upcoming videos. So first question, am I constipated? And then next question, am I consuming enough minerals and water to stay hydrated? I used to think that drinking a gallon of water was healthy because I was told that. I was told that by so many people. And I was in the bathroom all the time. My pee was clear and I was always thirsty. And so I learned about minerals and how your body actually needs minerals to even absorb the water that you're using. Otherwise, you're just diluting all of your minerals. And so be sure that if you're drinking enough water that you're adding minerals to it. Otherwise, you're not hydrating your body. There is a reason why when you get admitted to the hospital, they don't give you plain water. They give you salt water through an IV, or they give you other solutions that help bring fluid into your cells and properly hydrate you. It's not plain water. So that's another question you can kind of use to investigate your journey. The health of your gut, the health of your nervous system, and your hormones all rely on having enough minerals. And then number 3, am I over supplementing? I used to take so many supplements because I followed all these people online and they're like, here, take this, it will cure this, here, you need this. And then I started seeing clients and they would come to me on 20 supplements. And I would be like, what is going on? And so they would explain to me why they started it, and it made sense. But here's the thing. Your liver has to detoxify those supplements. And if you're already dealing with liver congestion from hormone imbalances and living in a chronic state of stress, and then you're piling on those supplements, and then on top of that, if you're on medication, it is burdening your liver. And so if you're over supplementing, I recommend taking a break from your supplements. Take a holiday. And if you notice that there's certain ones that you need that really make a difference for you, then add those back in. But if you're on 20 supplements, it's time to investigate and really tune in to what is going on and why you need them and what they're even doing for you. And remember, this goes for medications too. When you're seeing so many different specialists, say you're seeing a cardiologist, and then you're seeing a nephrologist, which is a kidney doctor, and then on top of that, you're going to an endocrinologist, which is for diabetes. What they're doing is they're looking at your body and they are ripping it apart. The heart doctor is focusing on your heart, the kidney doctor is focusing on your kidneys, and the diabetes doctor is focusing on your pancreas and your hormones that go along with balancing sugar. So when it comes to prescribing, they're then prescribing medications only thinking about that organ. And so when I used to work in nephrology, I had the blessing of working with a doctor who would always look at their medications and be like, wow, like this is interacting with your kidney medications. We need to get you off of this. And so just keep in mind that a lot of medications can interact with each other because there's providers that are prescribing them looking at different parts of your body and not looking at your body as a whole. And so I would really investigate your medications as well. And I'm not telling you to stop your medications. I don't know what you're on them for. I don't know your health history, but if you meet with your provider and you say, hey, what is this for? And then how can I get off of it? They can give you a plan. And I've seen people get off of medications. So I know that it's possible. And that is why I'm sharing this with you. And then last, am I living in a chronic state of stress? We need to get really, really honest with ourselves because unfortunately today, a lot of the stress we experience is psychological because you can get on your phone every morning, first thing in the morning, and send a rush of stress hormones through your body by the way that you're perceiving the world, by the things that you're reading, by the things that you're thinking about. Are you ruminating over past conversations? Is there a conversation with someone that you need to have? Get really, really honest with yourself because at the end of the day, when you're on a hormone balance journey, you cannot skip your perception of the world and you cannot skip your nervous system healing. That's why I included an entire course on nervous system healing. And this is extra module that I included because I found in working one-on-one with women, this was a missing piece. And you have to either start with it or you're going to end up, or if you haven't started with it, a lot of people end up having to circle back to this because it's just a biological truth. It's something that you have to eventually tackle. And so that's my last question for you. Are you living in a chronic state of stress? And if you are, there are things you can do about it. But those are 4 questions to get you started. I know hormone healing can feel like a lot and it can feel very overwhelming when you don't feel good. And that's why it can be so helpful to work with someone one-on-one. But I hope by giving you these 4 questions to start with that it encourages you to get started and to start looking at your body like an onion and start peeling back a layer at a time. So just to kind of pull this all together, when it comes to living in a chronic state of stress, for example, and trying to balance your hormones, your hypothalamus is what is responsible for ovulation. And so if your hypothalamus is looking around and it's like, wow, she is in a stressful environment because it's picking up on high levels of adrenaline and cortisol, it doesn't want you to get pregnant. So you're not going to ovulate. And when you don't ovulate, you don't get that nice rise in progesterone. And when you don't get the nice rise of progesterone, a lot of women will get high anxiety, bloating. It will lead to infertility. It can lead to depression, estrogen dominance, insulin resistance, and so much more. Menstruation starts in your brain. Your cycle starts in your brain. And so a great place is to start there in your brain. And then if you are not menstruating and you're one of my women that are maybe in perimenopause or menopause, looking back at the health of your cycle and the way you're living is a great place to start because once you're no longer having your cycle, your body then relies on your body fat and it relies on your adrenals to produce progesterone. And so if you have an issue from being chronically depleted and you're dealing with things like insulin resistance or thyroid dysfunction, remember your hormone balance also starts in your brain. So your hypothalamus, your pituitary, and your adrenals, those all need to be paid attention to because any dysfunction in that system is going to impact your overall health. So looking back at your cycle, if you're no longer in your menstruating years, can actually be a huge tool for you to use when it comes to addressing your issues that you're having now. All right, so that's all I have for you in this video. In our next video, we will be touching more on estrogen dominance and how we can start reversing it. So I'll see you next time. Bye.